Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Unstoppable Dream for Women in Recovery YouTube channel. Got Jess pulling a card. See what we're going to be discussing today
Yes.
on this cloudy and windy in Nashville, Tennessee, Halloween day.
Yes, it is. It's rainy here. You haven't gotten the rain yet, but I'm pulling from the Elena Fairchild Kali Oracle deck.
Okay.
Waiting for the perfect card to pop up for this today, October 31st, 2024. Can't believe it's already October 31st. Like,
Oh,
where did the year go? Like, oh my
I
gosh.
know.
Feel bad for all the little kid trick-or-treaters. Okay.
I know.
Righty. All right, we got card 24, Matangi. Matangi.
Ooh, okay.
It's interesting looking for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. I freaking love this deck. It's like super intense, but I like intense. Okay. Matangi. She is the tantric queen of outcast, unveiling hidden inner power to thrive outside conventional society. She holds the secret teachings of the power of the voice, of the healing power of art and music. She is the divine feminine medicine for the lost, the alienated, those who have been cast aside. If you have been denied love and respect, she brings healing and empowerment. If you have suffered rejection, abandonment, or been labeled as unworthy in any way, she brings dignity and repair. She is the ignition of a creative, joyful, and vibrant life path. The ninth of the wisdom goddesses, Mahavita Matangi, is a wild goddess, sparkling green in color with the green parrot as her symbol. She dwells outside the confines of polite society. That's
Huh. Okay.
right. And there's like a little prayer at the end too. It's a short little like prayer. It says, Raja Matangi, queen of outcasts, who dwells beyond society and thrives. You arise at the thresholds in the spaces of desolation, abandonment, and banishment. You are strength and sweetness. You are the extraordinary power that arises when all seems lost. You provide the knowledge needed to succeed in the path to overcome all obstacles through the power of the joyful spirit. May your wisdom manifest through all capable channels for the spiritual benefit of all beings. May our playful hearts take delight in yours. Mm. I love the energy of like play and joyful and creative that's coming through
Yeah.
with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And although I don't know if I've ever like felt like a true outcast is like, there were back in like leper biblical days, like that.
Right.
But I definitely have felt marginalized in different times in my life, like being a woman at different times,
Yeah.
being a convicted felon, like that's a thing. Like if you want to rent
Uh,
an apartment, get a job, like, so there's like some things that
right.
I can identify with that a little bit. And it is it's been part of my journey to like really let go of those old labels and those old society,
Hmm.
like, it's like the culture we live in may label as this, but like that's such an old version of myself. Like who is she even, right? Like I've been 50 Jessica since then. And so yeah, I don't know, I love this idea of like being joyful and creative and playful and just like really trusting that you're held. I don't know, that's
Yeah.
for me, right? Like be like really trusting that I'm held in my own uniqueness and authenticity.
Yeah. And what you said in there somewhere was like the culture. I feel like culture encourages us to identify, right? Like even now, it's like, are you Republican? Are you a Democrat? Did you vote? Like, why are we even playing this game still? Right. But right. Like, and it's like, how do you identify? This is, I don't want to talk about politics, but I'm just going to talk about politics for a second. Which makes me think there's this guy that I watch sometime on lives, and he really cracks me up. He'll be like, I don't want to talk about this. And then he'll like dive into the exact thing he just said he didn't want to talk about for like a really long time. And it cracks me up every time. I love it. Um, well, I remember when I was in like sixth grade, we did this whole thing in my school around, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Sixth grade.
You did too. I remember that.
And I was running, and then they had us all like running for different offices as a Democrat or as a Republican. And I remember being, I would literally remember, how old are you when you're in sixth grade? Like, I don't have kids, so I don't even
Maybe
know.
12,
Like,
like 11 or 12 or something.
well, see, my niece is 13. She's in eighth grade. So, yeah, like 11, maybe. Yeah, 11, 12. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even know. And I think at the time, I think my parents have always identified as Republican, but a lot of my friends were like Democrat. And I felt really confused
Mm.
and like torn. But it's just interesting, like it's just like bringing all of that up, like the identifications and how we are really like, that's how we move through the world is like so connected to like what we identify as.
Yes.
And even though that none of that is really who we are, right? Like convicted felon, CEO, coach, healer, all these like labels, Democrat, Republican, liberal. It's just so
Mhm.
weird. Like, and the more that we tune in and connect with ourselves and our creative aspects and our feminine energy, it's like that sets us free.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the reason it's like the like I was starting to feel a little bit um outgrown in the whole 12 step movement because there's just such an identification like with the disease of addiction or with the alcoholism or with
Yeah.
that like we don't like we never got away from that, right? Like you're never anything more than your alcoholism or your addiction or that's what it felt like, and so and I even remember when I first started family constellation facilitator training, my teacher had said, this is kind of a lonely path, right? Because you start to awaken and like all this stuff,
Hmm.
right? And so that has proven to be true. And so I can
Yeah.
kind of even relate to this on the broader scale because I do feel like I'm kind of unplugged, like
Yep.
from the system in a lot of ways. And just like
Yep.
the tension that creates sometimes in daily life or daily, it's like, no, I don't know. I haven't watched the news. I haven't heard about that. I have no idea, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? It's just like, well, I know my nervous system. I know what I can engage in and what I can't engage in and what dysregulates it. And politics is one of those things that like it gets me
Yeah.
really I just don't even like to um yeah, I don't even mess with it because it's like it's crazy the amount of dissension and tension, just the labeling. Because to me, it's like a
Yeah.
separate, it keeps us separate. If I'm this and
Yes.
you're that, then I'm something and you're something different. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I was just going to say that. So say you really identify as something that is divisive, or opposite, right? Or whatever. Like we'll just continue going with politics. Like they really identify with Republican. What if you meet someone and they're like, "Oh, I'm a Democrat." What? So that's how you limit yourself, right? Because now you're like, you
right.
might be shutting down, right? It's like what we call in dating, like, "Oh, that's a red flag."
Yeah.
We're like, "Oh, wait, you're a police officer. I dated a police officer before, and I know what police officers do, right? Or whatever the
Yeah.
label is." And so we like put up our own bars. We are literally create our own prisons.
Yes.
And then we desperately want to get out of them. But we have to like connect to ourselves first to understand that we're not any of this. So we break our own chains first in order to like see that everyone other, and then we're free to see other things. It's really all about ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and again, I'm going to bring up constellation training and like just my
Yeah.
whole experience with that because it's been so helpful in that arena. Because it's like my parents are very like diehard Republican, like it's like
Good.
they think all the issues in the world are because of Democrats.
Yeah.
It's like just like
Yeah.
it's I don't even engage. I'm like kind of thing. And it's like, but in constellations, it all belongs, right? Like it all
Yeah.
belongs. Like, there's no good, there's no bad, there's no black and white. Like it all belongs. And so, like to me, that just feels true, right? It's like I don't
Yes.
really. It's my attachment to things that makes me get too wrapped up in it. It's like, oh, maybe I'm going to vote this way, but that doesn't mean I'm like a diehard this or a diehard that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually not even registered to vote, so whatever. But like, we'll continue with the analogy here. It's like, yeah, I mean, and I love what you said about keeping people out because that's so true.
Yeah.
We can do that. Like I can even look back during 2020 in the pandemic, and I was like a very different person. I've come a long way in 4 years, but it's like I unfriended and unfollowed like so many people. It's like they were saying like stupid. I was like, bye, bye, bye. And now I just laugh at myself because I'm like, wow, look what little capacity I had to like hold differing views and differing stuff because there was just like so much in the air then.
Yeah.
Feel so different about it now, right?
Right. Yeah. It is fascinating that, yeah, the more we identify with the outer world, the more limited we become, the more and more limited we become. But the more we can again, and like that's what's so great about the unstoppable dream is because we're connecting to our creativity. And to anyone listening, we are hopefully creating an immersion program. We're thinking about launching this beginning of December, and we will be including constellation work in this, which is so powerful. So if you haven't had an opportunity to experience that, this is definitely something that you're going to want to experience for sure. And just if you're ready to break those chains, it's not wrong to have these identities and labels, right? But it's how is it constricting you, and do you take the time to really look within and and connect to the truth of who you are, to your soul nature,
Right,
which doesn't have any labels, you know.
right. And is abundant. Like there's always enough in nature, right? Like there's like it's
Yeah.
the humans that subscribe to this story that there's not enough, but like that's actually not
Hmm.
not true when you go into talk to the trees and go in the forest. It's like there's plenty of everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, just like really dropping into that enoughness, like internally and externally, because it's like
Yeah.
when I'm connected to like myself and the source within, then it's so easy to connect with the outer world. It's so easy to let life in because I feel sourced, right? I feel resourced from source, right? So it's like
Yeah.
I don't have to reach and grab and attach because I'm already full.
Yeah.
To me, that's the big difference, the energetic difference in the feeling of like that
Yeah.
kind of like feminine approach of welcoming and allowing and softening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking now, I'm like, I wonder where I limit myself because we all do this, right? Like, what do I hear when I hear a word or I hear a phrase or something? Am I already judging that person, right? Or that situation before it even happens? Hmm. That's a good call to action. So
It
if you're
is.
listening to this, like, where are you limiting yourself? Like, if someone has another label that you maybe don't identify with, how do you feel about that person or what they're saying or the experience, the situation? Yeah. Hmm.
Excellent time for this card to come up.
Yeah, I know.
Perfect timing,
Yeah.
Matangi. Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, and I'll say one
Yeah.
more thing too that's coming up too is something Whitney Frey always says is like, are you creating or are you consuming? Right? Like, am I in the
Right.
energy of creativity and abundance? Like, am I pouring out whatever it is? Like, doesn't necessarily have to be art,
Yeah.
just like creativity, creation, energy, or am I in the energy of like consuming, of taking in, of having to like fill myself up because I'm not already full? Um,
Right.
which as somebody with an addiction history, I can, that pattern still can pop up in my life very easy where I'm looking for
Yeah.
external things to make me feel better on the
Of course.
inside. So it's like I have to stay vigilant about that, that recognize
Yep.
I'm getting sourced from the actual source.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a constant practice, like life is your spiritual practice. I was listening to a Michael Singer podcast. I actually shared it on my Instagram story. He has a podcast on Spotify. Hang on, let me get you the name of this latest one. Turning daily life into a spiritual practice. That's the name of this episode 20. But yeah, it's like, I mean, just look at where you're triggered. That's your work, that's your work of like tuning in and and we talked about this last night in circle, but just accepting, how can you radically accept and receive all things that are every moment that is happening and then serve that moment. Um, yeah. Yeah, that was a great card to come up about like the connection to self, the creativity, the flow, the feminine, being able to receive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I took from that card anyway. I don't
Yeah.
know if it said all those things.
No, same. That's what I got out of it too. I thought it was perfect for today. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I
Yeah.
feel complete.
I feel complete too. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you for listening. If you stayed tuned to this episode, remember, if you are a woman and you are needing support on your recovery journey, we do offer free weekly sharing circles. And so our intake form is listed in the description. You can fill that out and we'll get back to you with all the information. Circles are Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Bye.